My name is Ramona, and I am 28 years old. 12 years ago, on the coldest night of my life, my parents drove away and left me alone in a blizzard. They believed my sister's lie over my truth. I nearly froze to death in our house, with no heat, no power, and no one coming to save me, but someone did come. Someone I had not seen in 8 years. And when my father finally arrived the next morning and saw who had rescued me, his hands would not stop shaking. That night changed everything. Before I tell you what happened, let me know in the comments where you are watching from today. If you have ever felt misunderstood by your own family, hit that like button and subscribe if you want to follow this journey with me. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a two-story pale blue house on the outskirts of Cedarville, Indiana. It was the kind of small Midwestern town where everyone knew everyone, where Friday nights meant high school football games, and where families were supposed to stick together no matter what. My father, Gerald, was 48 years old back then, a plumber by trade, well respected in our community for his honest work and steady hands. He was a quiet man who rarely raised his voice, but when he made a decision, that decision was final. There was no arguing with him, no changing his mind. My mother, Patricia, was 46, working as an administrative assistant at St. Mary Hospital, just 10 minutes from our home. She was the worrier of the family, always fussing over details, always trying to keep the peace. But she had one blind spot that would nearly cost me my life. She believed everything my older sister Delilah told her. Delilah was 3 years older than me, 19, at the time of this story, a sophomore at Indiana State University studying communications. She was everything I was not: tall where I was average, confident where I was quiet, charming where I was awkward. From the moment she was born, Delilah had been the golden child of our family. I do not say this with bitterness anymore, though back then it burned like acid in my chest. I say it because it was simply the truth that everyone in our house accepted without question. When Delilah came home from college for visits, the whole atmosphere of our house transformed. My father would stop at the bakery to pick up her favorite strawberry cream cake. My mother would spend hours preparing her special glazed pork ribs that Delilah loved. There would be flowers on the dining table, the good china would come out, and laughter would fill every room. I would watch from the edges of these celebrations, smiling when expected to smile, helping when asked to help, but always feeling like a guest in my own home. At 16, I was a different creature entirely. I preferred books to parties, journals to phone calls. I had a cat named Pepper, a gray tabby with green eyes, who seemed to understand me better than any human in my family. My grades were decent, but unremarkable. I was not failing, but I was not excelling either. And that was enough for my parents to constantly remind me of how Delilah had been at my age. Delilah was already on the honor roll by your age, Ramona. Delilah had so many friends by your age. Delilah knew exactly what she wanted to do with her life by your age. Why can you not be more like your sister? These words became the background music of my adolescence, a constant melody of disappointment that I could never quite escape. But the comparisons were not the worst part. The worst part was being blamed for things I did not do. I remember when I was 14, money went missing from my mother's wallet. $40 meant for groceries. Delilah had been home that weekend. I had been in my room reading all afternoon. But when my mother noticed the money was gone, it was my room she searched first. It was my face she looked at with suspicion. And when Delilah casually mentioned that she had seen me near Mom's purse earlier that day, my fate was sealed. I was grounded for a week. I was not allowed to watch television or use the computer. I had to write an apology letter to my mother for stealing, even though I never took a single dollar. 2 years later, my father's vintage vinyl record collection was damaged. Several records were scratched beyond repair, including a rare pressing of a jazz album he had inherited from his own father. Delilah had thrown a small gathering in the living room when our parents were out. I had stayed in my room the entire time, uncomfortable with the older college students drinking and being loud. But when my father discovered the damage, Delilah told him that I had been playing around in the living room, that I must have knocked over the records while showing off to her friends. Ramona, my father had said, his voice heavy with disappointment. I thought I could trust you with my things. I was wrong. I tried to defend myself. I tried to explain that I had been upstairs, that I had not touched his records, that Delilah's friends were the ones in that room. But my father simply shook his head. Your sister does not lie to me, he said. She never has. I spent that entire month doing extra chores around the house as punishment. Washing dishes, cleaning bathrooms, mowing the lawn, scrubbing floors on my hands and knees. Every single day I paid for a crime I did not commit. There was one person who might have believed me, who might have seen the truth. My grandmother, Eleanor, my mother's mother. She was 72 years old and lived alone in a small cabin about 15 miles from town, nestled near the edge of the Cedarville woods. But I barely knew her. 8 years before this story, when I was only 8 years old, there had been a massive argument between my mother and grandmother. I was too young to understand all the details at the time, but I would later learn that grandmother Eleanor had confronted my mother about her obvious favoritism toward Delilah. She had told my mother that treating her children so unequally would cause lasting damage. My mother did not take this well. Words were exchanged, accusations made, and by the end of that terrible afternoon, my mother had declared that she wanted nothing more to do with her own mother. For 8 years, we had no contact with grandmother Eleanor. No phone calls, no letters, no holiday visits. She became a ghost, someone whose name was never mentioned in our house. I had only vague memories of her from my early childhood. Kind blue eyes, hair as white as snow, the smell of lavender and fresh baked bread, a soft voice reading me stories by a warm fire. These fragments were all I had, and as the years passed, even these began to fade. Despite everything, despite the unfairness and the constant disappointments, I never stopped loving my family. I kept hoping that someday things would change. Someday my parents would see the truth. Someday they would love me the same way they loved Delilah. Someday I would matter. That hope was about to be tested in ways I could never have imagined. It was the second week of January when Delilah came home for her winter break. The semester was over, exams were finished, and she had nearly 3 weeks before classes started again. My parents were overjoyed as always. The house was cleaned from top to bottom. Her favorite foods were stocked in the refrigerator. Fresh linens were placed on her bed. You would have thought the president was coming to stay with us. I tried to approach this visit with optimism. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe we could actually bond as sisters. I had even saved up money from my babysitting jobs to buy Delilah a gift. It was a leather-bound journal with her initials embossed on the cover. I thought she might like it for taking notes in her classes or writing down ideas. I wrapped it carefully in silver paper and hid it in my closet, planning to give it to her on her first night home. Delilah arrived on a Thursday evening, breezing through the front door, like a movie star, making her entrance. She was wearing a new cashmere coat I had never seen before, designer boots that must have cost more than my entire wardrobe, and carrying a Louis Vuitton handbag that made my mother gasp with admiration. "Where on earth did you get such beautiful things?" my mother asked, reaching out to touch the handbag like it was a holy relic. "Oh, you know," Delilah said with a casual wave of her perfectly manicured hand. "Sales and things. A girl has to treat herself sometimes." Something about her voice was different. There was a tightness to it, a tension hiding beneath her breezy confidence. But my parents did not notice. They never noticed anything wrong with Delilah. That first night after dinner, I crept down the hallway to give Delilah her present. I was nervous, hoping she would like it, hoping this might be the start of a better relationship between us, but as I approached her door, I heard her voice. She was on the phone with someone speaking in low, urgent tones. I knew I should not eavesdrop. I knew it was wrong, but something made me stop and listen. "Marcus, I know I owe you," she was saying. "I know it is a lot. Just give me a few more weeks. I will get the money, I promise. Please do not do anything crazy. Please!" There was desperation in her voice that I had never heard before. Fear, even. My confident, untouchable sister sounded scared. "I will figure something out," she continued. "I always do. Just trust me. I will pay you back everything, every single cent." She hung up the phone and I heard her take a shaky breath. I stood frozen in the hallway, my heart pounding. Who was Marcus? What money did she owe? What kind of trouble was my sister in? I should have walked away. I should have pretended I heard nothing. Instead, I knocked softly on her door. "Come in," she called, her voice suddenly composed. I opened the door and held out the wrapped gift. "I got you something. For coming home." Delilah looked at the package like I was handing her a dead animal. She took it with 2 fingers, unwrapped it carelessly, and glanced at the journal with barely concealed disdain. "Oh, a notebook. How practical." "I thought you could use it for your classes," I said, my enthusiasm deflating like a punctured balloon. Sure, thanks. She tossed the journal onto her desk and turned back to her phone. I was dismissed. As I walked back to my room, I heard her mutter something under her breath. I could not catch all of it, but I heard the word pathetic. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself she was just stressed from finals. I told myself that tomorrow would be better. Tomorrow would be so much worse. The next afternoon, my mother's scream echoed through the entire house. I was in my room doing homework when I heard it, a sound of pure anguish that made my blood run cold. I rushed downstairs to find my mother on her knees in her bedroom, pulling out drawers and tearing through jewelry boxes. "It is gone," she kept saying. "It is gone. Oh God, it is gone." "What is gone?" I asked. My father came running in from the garage, still holding a wrench from whatever project he had been working on. "Patricia, what happened? Mama's necklace." My mother sobbed. "The gold one. The one that has been in our family for 3 generations. It is gone." My heart dropped into my stomach. That necklace was irreplaceable, not just because of its monetary value, but because of what it represented. It had belonged to my great-grandmother, passed down to my grandmother, then to search the house. I looked to search the house. I looked in the living room, the kitchen, the bathrooms. My father checked the basement and garage. We searched for over an hour with no luck. Then Delilah appeared at the top of the stairs, her face arranged in an expression of concerned helpfulness. "Mom," she said softly. I did not want to say anything, but I think I might know what happened. My mother looked up desperate. What do you know last night?" Delilah said, her voice dripping with reluctant sincerity. "I saw Ramona coming out of your room. It was late. I thought it was strange, but I did not think much of it at the time. But now with the necklace missing, I just thought you should know." Every eye in the room turned to me. "I was not in your room," I said immediately, my voice rising with panic. "I was in my room all night doing homework. I never went anywhere near your room." My mother stared at me with suspicion, already forming in her eyes. "Ramona, if you know something about this, you need to tell us now." "I do not know anything," I insisted. "I did not take it. I would never take it." Delilah sighed as if it pained her to continue. "There is one more thing. I noticed Ramona has been asking for money lately, a lot of money, more than usual. And I saw her putting something in her backpack before bed last night. The walls were closing in around me. I could feel my chances of being believed shrinking with every word my sister spoke. My father stepped forward, his face hard. "Ramona, bring me your backpack." "Fine," I said, relieved because I knew the necklace was not there. I would finally be proven innocent. I retrieved my backpack from my room and handed it to my father. He unzipped it slowly, methodically reaching inside. And then he pulled out the gold necklace. The world stopped. The air left my lungs. I stared at that necklace dangling from my father's fingers, and I could not comprehend how it got there. I had not put it there. I had never even seen it outside of my mother's jewelry box. I glanced at Delilah, just for a second, and in that second, I saw it. The tiniest smile curving at the corner of her mouth before she quickly replaced it with a look of sad disappointment. She had done this. She had planted the necklace in my bag, but I had no way to prove it. "Explain this," my father demanded, his voice shaking with anger. "I did not take it," I said, my voice breaking. "Someone put it there. I swear on my life I did not take it. Please believe me." My mother was crying. My father was seething. And Delilah stood there with her perfect mask of concerned, sisterly love. "The evidence is right here," my father said. "It was in your bag, Ramona. And you stand here lying to our faces." "I am not lying," I screamed. "Why do you never believe me? Why do you always believe her?" "Because your sister does not lie," my father shouted back. "She has never given us any reason to doubt her. But you, Ramona, you have been difficult from the day you were born. Always jealous, always resentful. I thought we raised to think about what she has done. Maybe we just need some time alone to think about what she has done. Maybe we should let her cool down." My parents agreed. I was sent to my room without dinner. I was told I would face further consequences the next day. I was told I had destroyed their trust. I lay in bed that night, Pepper curled up beside me, and I cried until I had no tears left. I did not know that the worst was still to come. The next evening, everything fell apart. The blizzard had been building all day. Weather reports called it a historic storm, the worst to hit Indiana in decades. Forecasters warned everyone to stay indoors to stock up on supplies to prepare for power outages and dangerous conditions. By 6 o'clock, the wind was howling like a wounded animal, and snow was falling so thick that you could barely see across the yard. Our family was sitting in the living room when the phone rang. My father answered, and I watched his expression shift from curiosity to concern. "Martha, slow down. What happened?" It was my father's sister, Aunt Martha, who lived in the next town over about 20 miles away. I could hear her panicked voice even from across the room, though I could not make out the words. "A burst pipe? How bad is it?" "The whole basement." My father ran a hand over his face, already calculating what would need to be done. Okay, calm down. I will come over and take a look. Just try to turn off the main water valve if you can. I am leaving now." My mother immediately stood up. "Gerald, you cannot go out in this storm. It is too dangerous." "Martha needs help," my father said, already reaching for his coat. "Her basement is flooding. She has no one else." "Then I am coming with you. I cannot let you drive alone in these conditions." Delilah appeared at the bottom of the stairs, already bundled in her expensive coat. "I will come too. I have not seen Aunt Martha in forever." I stood up from where I had been sitting in the corner, invisible as always. "Can I come?" The three of them turned to look at me. For a moment, no one spoke. Then my father's face hardened. "No, you stay here." "But Dad," I started. "You need time to think about what you did," he said coldly. "Use this time wisely. Maybe when we get back, you will be ready to apologize for stealing from your own mother." I did not steal anything I said, but my voice was barely a whisper. I had said these words so many times that they were losing all meaning. My mother would not even look at me. "There is food in the refrigerator. We should be back in a few hours." Delilah brushed past me on her way to the door, close enough that only I could hear her whisper, "Be good little sister." Then they were gone. The front door closed. The headlights of my father's pickup truck swept across the living room windows, and then they disappeared into the swirling white storm. I was alone. Pepper meowed and rubbed against my ankles, sensing my distress. I picked him up and held him close, standing at the window, watching the snow pile higher and higher. "They left me," I said to Pepper, my voice hollow. "They just left me." I told myself they would be back soon. I told myself the storm was not that bad. I told myself I would be fine. An hour passed. The wind grew stronger, rattling the windows and their frames. The snow was now several inches deep on the ground, drifting against the sides of the house. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice, and then everything went dark. The power was out. I fumbled in the darkness, searching for candles and matches. I found them in the kitchen drawer where my mother always kept them. I lit several candles and placed them around the living room, their small flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. But the real problem was the heat. Our furnace ran on electricity. Without power, there was no heat, and the temperature was dropping fast. I went to the thermostat on the wall. The digital display was dead, but I could feel the cold creeping in through the walls. I found extra blankets in the hallway closet and piled them on the couch. I should call someone, I thought. I should let them know the power is out. I picked up the landline phone in the kitchen. No dial tone. The phone lines were dead too. My cell phone. Where was my cell phone? I ran upstairs to my room and found it on my desk. The screen was black. Dead battery. I had forgotten to charge it. "Okay," I told myself. "Okay, do not panic. They will come back soon. The power will come back on. Everything will be fine." But an hour passed, then 2, then 3. The cold became unbearable. I could see my breath in the candlelight. I wrapped myself in every blanket I could find, curled up on the couch with Pepper, and tried to stay warm. The clock on the mantel, a battery-powered thing that still worked, showed 10:30 at night. My family had been gone for over 4 hours. Where were they? Why were they not back? Maybe they got stuck in the snow, I thought. Maybe they decided to stay at Aunt Martha's until the storm passed. Maybe they forgot about me. That last thought burrowed into my brain and refused to leave. I was alone in a freezing house in the middle of the worst storm in decades, and my family might not even be thinking about me. The cold was doing strange things to my body now. My fingers were numb. My toes felt like blocks of ice, even inside 2 pairs of socks. My teeth chattered so hard that my jaw ached. I tried to remember everything I knew about hypothermia from health class. Shivering was the first stage. Then the shivering would stop, which was actually a bad sign. Then confusion. Then drowsiness. Then death. I was shivering violently. That was still okay. But for how much longer, I pressed myself deeper into the pile of blankets, holding Pepper against my chest. His small body was warm, and I tried to absorb as much of that heat as I could. I thought about my life, about the unfairness of everything. I thought about dying here alone while my family was safely warm at Aunt Martha's house. Would they even be sad, or would they just be relieved that they no longer had to deal with their disappointing younger daughter? Tears slid down my cheeks and froze on my skin. I started to feel sleepy, a dangerous, seductive drowsiness that whispered to me that everything would be better if I just closed my eyes and rested. I knew I should fight it. I knew falling asleep in these temperatures could kill me, but I was so tired, so cold, so utterly alone. My eyes began to close, and then I heard a knock at the door. At first, I thought I was imagining it, a hallucination brought on by the cold. But then it came again, louder this time, the sound of a fist pounding against wood. "Is anyone in there?" a voice called out. "Ramona, are you in there?" I tried to stand, but my legs would not cooperate. They felt like wooden posts, stiff and unresponsive. I managed to roll off the couch and crawl toward the door, dragging the blankets with me. Every inch felt like a mile. The knocking continued, more urgent now. "Ramona, if you can hear me, please answer. I'm coming," I tried to say, but my voice came out as a croak. I reached the door and fumbled with the lock. My numb fingers could barely grip the metal. Finally, the deadbolt turned. I pulled the door open. Standing on the front porch, covered in snow, was an elderly woman. She was bundled in a heavy winter coat, a wool hat pulled down over her ears, a thick scarf wrapped around her neck. But I could see her eyes. Blue eyes. Kind eyes. Eyes that looked at me with such worry and love that I almost started crying again. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, her voice catching. "Oh, my dear girl, what have they done to you?" She stepped inside and immediately wrapped her arms around me. I could feel the cold clinging to her coat, but beneath that cold was warmth. Real warmth. Human warmth. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, though. Somewhere deep in my frozen mind, I already knew. "I am Eleanor," she said softly. "I am your grandmother." Grandmother. The word felt foreign on my tongue. I had almost forgotten I had one. Grandmother Eleanor did not waste time on explanations. She took one look at my blue lips and shaking body and shifted into action. From a bag she had brought with her, she pulled out chemical hand warmers, the kind that activate when you crack them. She tucked them into my hands, my armpits between my thighs, where the major blood vessels were. She wrapped me in a thermal blanket she had also brought. "We need to get you out of here," she said. "This house is an ice box, and it is only going to get colder. Can you walk if I help you?" "I think so," I said, though I was not sure. She helped me to my feet, her arms strong around my waist. I grabbed Pepper, who had stayed loyally by my side the entire time, and tucked him inside my coat. We made our way to her car, a sturdy old Jeep Cherokee that was still running its headlights, cutting through the swirling snow. She helped me into the passenger seat and cranked the heat up as high as it would go. As she drove slowly and carefully through the treacherous roads, I asked the question that had been forming in my frozen brain. "How did you know I was there? How did you know I needed help?" Grandmother Eleanor kept her eyes on the road, but I saw her grip tighten on the steering wheel. "I have a weather radio at my cabin," she said. "When I heard about the storm, I got worried. I know your parents and I have not spoken in years, but that does not mean I stopped caring about you girls. I drove into town to check on things. When I saw the house dark, no car in the driveway, I had a feeling something was wrong." She paused, her jaw tightening. "When I went inside and found you nearly frozen to death, I knew my feeling was right. Where are your parents, Ramona? Where is your sister?" So I told her everything. The necklace, the accusation, the planted evidence being left behind while they went to help Aunt Martha. I told her about all the times before, all the other false accusations, all the years of being blamed and doubted and dismissed. I told her things I had never told anyone because there had never been anyone who would listen. When I finished, Grandmother Eleanor was silent for a long moment. Then she said very quietly, "I tried to warn your mother about this. 8 years ago, I told her that treating you and Delilah so differently would cause damage. She did not want to hear it. She cut me out of her life for speaking the truth. I did not know I whispered. Of course you did not. You were just a child. But I never stopped thinking about you, Ramona. I tried to send you letters, birthday cards, but they always came back unopened. Your mother wanted nothing to do with me, and I had no way to reach you. I felt tears prickling at my eyes again, but these were different. These were tears of something I had not felt in a long time. Hope. We reached the cabin about 30 minutes later. It was a small wooden structure tucked away among the snow-covered trees. Smoke was rising from the chimney, and warm light glowed in the windows. Inside, a fire was crackling in a stone fireplace. The cabin was simple but cozy. Handmade quilts draped over furniture, shelves lined with books, the smell of lavender and wood smoke. Grandmother Eleanor sat me down in a chair right next to the fire. She made me hot tea, then warm soup. She checked my fingers and toes for frostbite. She wrapped me in more blankets until I looked like a human burrito. Pepper curled up on a cushion near the fire, purring contentedly. For the first time in what felt like years, I felt safe. Later, as the storm raged outside, but we remained warm and protected, inside, Grandmother Eleanor sat down across from me. I need you to know something, she said, her blue eyes serious. I believe you. About the necklace, about everything. I have watched your family from a distance for years, and I have seen how they treat you. It is not right. It has never been right. I nodded, unable to speak through the lump in my throat. You did not deserve any of this, she continued. You are not difficult. You are not a disappointment. You are a kind, intelligent, resilient young woman who has been failed by the people who were supposed to protect you. Then she reached out and took my hand. I am so sorry I was not there for you, she said, her voice cracking. I am so sorry I let your mother push me away. But I am here now, and I am not going anywhere. That night before I fell asleep in the small guest bedroom with its warm quilts and soft pillows, Grandmother Eleanor said one more thing. Tomorrow, when the storm clears, your family will come looking for you, and when they do, they are going to hear some truths they should have heard a long time ago. Morning came with clear blue skies and dazzling sunlight reflecting off endless fields of pristine white snow. The storm had passed, leaving behind a transformed world. Trees bent under the weight of ice. Snowdrifts rose taller than cars. The roads were barely visible beneath the accumulation. Grandmother Eleanor made breakfast while I sat by the fire, still wrapped in blankets, still warming my bones. She cooked scrambled eggs and bacon and toast with homemade jam. It was the best meal I had eaten in months. I used her phone to call the local police station and let them know I was safe. They had apparently been looking for me after someone I assumed my parents had reported me missing. The officer I spoke to sounded relieved and said he would pass along the message. It was just past noon when I heard the rumble of an engine approaching the cabin. I looked out the window and saw my father's pickup truck, still covered in patches of snow, making its way up the narrow drive. My heart started pounding. Fear, anger, hope, dread. Everything mixed together in a tangled mess. Grandmother Eleanor placed a hand on my shoulder. Remember, she said calmly, you have done nothing wrong. You have nothing to apologize for. Whatever happens next, I am on your side. The truck stopped. 3 doors opened. My father stepped out first, followed by my mother, followed by Delilah. And then they saw Grandmother Eleanor standing on the cabin porch. My father stopped in his tracks. His face went pale. His hands, those steady hands that had fixed 1,000 pipes and never wavered, began to shake. Eleanor, he breathed. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Delilah just stared. Gerald, Grandmother Eleanor said coolly, Patricia and Delilah, please come inside. We have much to discuss. They filed into the cabin like children being called to the principal's office. My mother could not stop staring at Grandmother Eleanor, at this woman she had cut out of her life 8 years ago, Ramona. My mother cried when she saw me rushing forward to embrace me. Oh, thank God you are all right. We were so worried. When we heard the power went out, when we could not reach you on the phone, we tried to come back, but the roads were closed, and we were stuck, and we did not know what to do. She was crying, real tears. I wanted to believe they were tears of genuine relief, but I could not help wondering if they were also tears of guilt. I did not hug her back. I could not. Not yet. We need to talk, I said. All of us. Grandmother Eleanor had us sit in the living room. My parents on one side, me and Grandmother on the other. Delilah stood awkwardly near the door, like she was ready to bolt at any moment. First things first, Grandmother Eleanor said. Ramona told me what happened with the necklace. I know you all believe she took it. But there is something you need to see. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone, showing the screen to my parents. When I arrived at your house last night, she explained I noticed Ramona's backpack had been searched and left open. It struck me as odd. I took photos of everything just in case. And then I found this. She swiped to another image. It was a piece of paper crumpled and stained. This was on the floor near the coat rack. It must have fallen out of someone's pocket. I picked it up and smoothed it out. It is a pawn shop receipt. My father leaned forward to look. His brow furrowed. It is dated 2 days before the necklace went missing, Grandmother continued. The item pawned is described as a gold necklace antique family heirloom, and the name on the receipt is Delilah. Every eye in the room turned to my sister. Delilah's face went white, then red, then white again. That is not what it looks like, she stammered. Then please explain, Grandmother Eleanor said calmly. Explain why there is a receipt proving you pawned your mother's necklace 2 days before you accused your sister of stealing it. I was going to get it back. I just needed the money for something, and I was going to get it back before anyone noticed. But then Mom found out it was missing sooner than I expected, and I panicked, and Ramona was the easy target because everyone always believes me over her, and I know it was wrong, but I did not know what else to do. The words tumbled out of Delilah's mouth in a rush, tears streaming down her face, the mask of the perfect daughter crumbling into pieces on the floor. Why did you need the money? My father asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I owe someone, a guy named Marcus. I borrowed money from him to buy stupid expensive things that I thought I needed to fit in at school. Designer clothes, fancy dinners. I got in over my head, and he wanted his money back, and I had nothing to give him. So I took the necklace. I thought I could pawn it, pay Marcus back, and then figure out how to get the necklace back later. But everything spiraled out of control. Silence filled the cabin. Heavy, suffocating silence. You let your sister be blamed for something you did, my mother finally said, her voice shaking. You watched us punish her. You watched us say terrible things to her. You let us leave her alone in that house during a blizzard. She could have died, Delilah. Your sister could have died because of your lie. Delilah collapsed onto a chair, sobbing. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I looked at my parents. My father's hands were still shaking. My mother looked like she had aged 10 years in 10 minutes. And for the first time in my life, I saw them truly see me. Not as the difficult child, not as the disappointment, but as their daughter, who they had wronged again and again. The silence in that cabin stretched for what felt like hours, though it was probably only minutes. My parents sat frozen, the truth settling over them like a physical weight. Delilah continued to cry, her sobs the only sound breaking the stillness. I watched them all, and something shifted inside me. For so long, I had wanted this moment. I had dreamed of the day when my innocence would be proven beyond doubt. I had imagined my parents falling over themselves to apologize, begging for my forgiveness. But now that it was happening, I did not feel the satisfaction I had expected. I did not feel vindicated or triumphant. I just felt tired, exhausted to my very core. And I realized something important. An apology from them, no matter how sincere, could not undo the years of damage. It could not erase the nights I had cried myself to sleep, wondering why I was not good enough. It could not heal the wound of being left alone in a freezing house by the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. The only person who could heal me was myself. I stood up, and everyone's eyes turned to me. I need to say some things, I said. My voice was steady, though I had not expected it to be. I need you to listen, really listen, without interrupting. My parents nodded, looking at me with expressions I had never seen on their faces before. Fear, shame, and something that might have been respect. For 16 years I have tried everything to earn your love. I did my chores without complaining. I got decent grades. I stayed out of trouble. I did not ask for much. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted to be believed. I wanted to matter as much as Delilah. I took a breath, steadying myself. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. Delilah was always smarter, prettier, more charming in your eyes. She could do no wrong, and I could do no right. Every time something went missing or broken, I was the suspect. Every time there was a conflict, I was the one who apologized. Every time I tried to defend myself, I was told I was lying. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. I am not finished. She closed her mouth. Last night I said you left me alone in a house during a blizzard. You knew a massive storm was coming. You knew the power could go out, and you still chose to leave your 16-year-old daughter behind because you thought she deserved to be punished for something she did not do. I looked directly at my father. Dad, do you know what it feels like to think you might die and wonder if your own family would even care? Do you know what it is like to feel so cold that you cannot feel your own hands, and to realize that the people who were supposed to protect you have abandoned you? He could not meet my eyes. His hands, those shaking hands, were pressed against his knees. I turned to my mother. Mom, Grandmother Eleanor tried to warn you. 8 years ago, she tried to tell you that your favoritism was hurting me, and instead of listening, you cut her out of your life. You chose to keep living in denial rather than face an uncomfortable truth. My mother was crying now, silent tears sliding down her cheeks. Finally, I looked at Delilah. And you, I do not even know what to say to you. You knew exactly what you were doing. You knew I would be blamed. You knew I would be punished. And you let it happen because it was easier than facing consequences for your own mistakes. You almost let me die, Delilah, your own sister. Delilah's sobs grew louder, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no satisfaction, just emptiness. I am not saying these things to make you feel guilty, I continued. I am saying them because they are true and because someone needed to say them out loud. For years, I kept hoping things would change. I kept hoping you would wake up one day and see me differently. But I cannot keep hoping for something that might never happen. I have to start taking care of myself. I straightened my shoulders and made my decision. I am going to stay here with Grandmother Eleanor for the rest of winter break. I need time away from you, away from our house, away from everything. I need to figure out who I am when I am not constantly trying to prove my worth to people who refuse to see it. My father finally spoke. Ramona, please, we can work this out. We can do better. We love you. I met his eyes. Do you, Dad? Because love should not feel like this. Love should not make someone feel invisible. Love should not leave someone behind in a snowstorm. He had no answer. I will come home eventually, I said. But things are going to be different. I will not accept being treated like a second-class citizen in my own family anymore. I will not accept being doubted and blamed every time something goes wrong. If you want to be part of my life, you are going to have to earn my trust. Because right now, I do not trust any of you. My mother stood up, reaching for me. Ramona, sweetheart, please. We are so sorry. We never meant to hurt you. I stepped back, avoiding her touch. I know you think you never meant to, I said softly. But intentions do not erase impact. You hurt me, Mom. All of you did. And sorry does not magically make that go away. Grandmother Eleanor rose and stood beside me, her hand on my shoulder. I think it is time for you all to go, she said to my parents. Ramona needs rest, and she needs space. When she is ready to talk more, she will reach out. Until then, I suggest you use this time to reflect on the kind of family you want to be. My parents left. Delilah trailed behind them, still crying. At the door, my mother turned back one last time. We love you, Ramona, she said. We always have. We just did not know how to show it properly. But we are going to learn, I promise. I did not respond. I just watched them walk through the snow to their truck, climb inside, and drive away. When they were gone, Grandmother Eleanor squeezed my shoulder. I am proud of you, she said. That took incredible courage. I do not feel courageous, I admitted. I feel empty. That is normal. You have been carrying this pain for so long, and now you are finally starting to let it go. It takes time. But you have already taken the first step. Over the next 2 weeks, I stayed at the cabin with Grandmother Eleanor. We talked for hours, sharing stories and catching up on 8 years of lost time. She told me about her life, her garden, her books, her quiet routines. I told her about school, about Pepper, about my dreams of maybe one day becoming a writer. She taught me how to bake bread from scratch. She showed me how to identify bird calls in the winter woods. She read to me by the fire, just like she had when I was a little girl. And slowly, gradually, I began to heal. I wrote in my journal every day. I wrote about my anger, my sadness, my confusion. I wrote about the family I wished I had, and the family I actually had. I wrote about learning to love myself, even when others failed to. It was not a magical transformation. Healing never is. But it was a beginning. 12 years have passed since the night in the blizzard. I am 28 now, living in a cozy apartment in Indianapolis, with a gray cat named Maple, the successor to my beloved Pepper, who passed away peacefully at the age of 17. I work as a book editor for a small publishing house, spending my days surrounded by stories which feels exactly right. After I returned home from Grandmother Eleanor's cabin that winter, things did change. Not overnight and not completely, but they changed. My parents started family therapy with a counselor who specialized in favoritism and sibling dynamics. They read books, they attended workshops. There are scars that do not fully fade. There are scars that do not fully fade, wounds that ache when the weather changes, but we are trying, all of us. That counts for something. Delilah went to therapy as well, working through her compulsive spending and her patterns of manipulation. She eventually paid back the money she owed Marcus and got herself out of debt. She finished college, got a job in marketing, and by all accounts has become a reasonably decent person. We are not close, Delilah and I. I do not know if we ever will be. Too much happened, too much damage was done. But we can be in the same room now without tension. We can exchange birthday cards and occasional text messages. We exist in each other's lives without animosity, which is more than I once thought possible. I was with her when it happened, holding. I was with her when it happened, holding her hand as she slipped away peacefully. In her will, she left me the cabin. I go there often, especially when I need to think, to write, to remember. The cabin is my sanctuary, a place where I first learned what it meant to be truly seen and loved without conditions. I think about that blizzard night sometimes, how close I came to dying, how my family left me behind without a second thought, how a woman they had banished from their lives drove through a deadly storm because she had a feeling something was wrong. That night taught me many things. It taught me that the people who are supposed to love us do not always show up when we need them. Sometimes they fail us in spectacular, devastating ways, and that failure is not a reflection of our worth. It is a reflection of their limitations. It taught me that love can come from unexpected places. The grandmother I barely knew became the person who saved my life, literally and figuratively. She showed me that family is not just about blood. It is about who chooses to be there for you, who believes in you, who refuses to give up on you even when others have. It taught me that I am stronger than I ever imagined. I survived that night. I survived 16 years of being invisible in my own home. I survived the heartbreak of learning that my sister would rather let me freeze than admit her own mistakes. And I did not just survive. I eventually thrived. Most importantly, that night taught me about self-love. For so long, I had been seeking validation from my parents, from Delilah, from anyone who might see me and find me worthy. But validation from others is a moving target. You can never catch it, never hold it, never depend on it. The only validation that matters is the kind you give yourself. You do not have to prove your value to anyone. You do not have to earn the love that should be given freely. You do not have to accept being treated as less than because someone else decided you were. Your worth is not determined by how others see you. It is determined by how you see yourself. I know some of you watching this have been through similar experiences. Maybe not a blizzard, maybe not a stolen necklace, but the feeling of being invisible, of being blamed, of being the family scapegoat. That feeling is universal. That pain transcends specific circumstances. If that is you, I want you to hear something. It is not your fault. Whatever they blamed you for, whatever lies they told about you, whatever love they withheld, it was never about your worthiness. It was about their inability to see clearly, to love fairly, to be the people they should have been. You deserve better. You deserve to be believed. You deserve to be protected. You deserve to be loved without conditions. And if the people around you cannot give you those things, then you have permission to seek them elsewhere. You have permission to build your own family, your own support system, your own circle of people who see you exactly as you are and love you for it. You have permission to save yourself. I am standing in Grandmother Eleanor's cabin as I finish telling you this story. Outside the window, snow is falling gently, blanketing the woods in white. Maple is purring on her cushion by the fire. Everything is peaceful. I am at peace. It took me a long time to get here. Years of therapy journals, filled with processing, countless conversations with friends who became family. The journey was not easy, and I would not wish it on anyone, but I would not trade it either, because everything I went through made me who I am today. A woman who knows her worth, a woman who refuses to shrink to make others comfortable, a woman who has learned that the deepest healing comes from within. If you are in a dark place right now, if you feel a